Do you think the weight behind the word Nazi, racist, bigot has lost its weight because everybody's thrown around nowadays where it no longer has the weight it once had? Or do you
Well,
think
it
it still
should.
carries weight?
Yeah, it should carry far less weight, and I mean, especially today, where you can get called that for anything, for any reason. And this is something that I've tried to tell liberal friends of mine for years. Right? You call somebody a fascist, right? Well, watch out, because when the real McCoy comes along someday, no one's going to believe you when you call out somebody who's really a fascist. You call everyone a racist, no one's going to believe you when someone comes along who's genuinely a racist. And by the way, I say this to conservative friends a lot. Just because someone's a liberal, you disagree with them, don't call them a commie, right? Communism is a very unique, specific thing. You might call them a radical lefty, right? Call them a lefty crazy, call them a loony left, something like that. But don't fling that kind of language around. Both sides need to be more careful and thoughtful about their rhetoric and their names. But the left in particular, I mean, I've had people say to me, I've heard this more in the past 6 months or so, especially after the Trump administration, right? That people just simply no longer take that charge of racist seriously, because the left has absolutely so abused it and annihilated it that it doesn't carry the weight that it should.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had David Horowitz on. You know David
Oh
Horowitz,
yeah,
who is
yeah.
a pretty
We've
well-known.
had him at Grove City College, yeah, a couple of years ago. Amazing. Yep.
Yeah, I had him on, and he kept saying, "Everybody, the Democrats are communists." I said, "You can't say that." He says, "I'm telling you, they're coming out. I don't believe every one of them is, because we're losing them." He says, "Everybody keeps saying." So, anyways, we had a nice, interesting conversation together on, because I agree with you on the fact that we're also labeling everybody. Not everybody's in the same box. Second question for you on this side here. So, for me, as a person that's a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. I have to always get to the bottom of the issue, because you can fix issues on the surface. It keeps reappearing. But you got to get to the bottom of the root to figure out exactly why this issue keeps surfacing. So you said this has been going on for a while. Okay. So I'm 42. Okay. I came to the States November 28, 1990, which means I don't know pre-November 29. Matter of fact, I didn't even follow politics for quite some time. So go even past that, right? If this has been going on forever, has this been going on forever, as in since biblical times, pre-biblical times? Meaning, are we always going to go through this 20 years from now, 40 years from now, 80 years from now, 300 years from now, 800 years from 1,000 years from now, because it's a cyclical cycle of one person makes the money, the other one says it's unfair, he feels envious, let's take the money and give it to everybody else. So it's a constant pendulum that will go through and it's never ending. Or is it any way different today than it was before, 40 years from now, 80 years from now, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, 500 years ago?
Well, I do think it's worse now than ever, and it's getting worse. But like, for example, yesterday in class, I teach a course on Marxism. We were talking about the Hollywood 10, and every single member of the Hollywood 10 was a member of Communist Party USA. We had their 5-digit Communist Party USA numbers. In fact, they were presented before the members of Hollywood 10 when they were speaking to Congress October and November 1947, House Committee on Un-American Activities. John Howard Lawson, who was one of the worst of them, when he was called in to testify after telling all of his liberal friends in Hollywood, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Danny Kaye, Gene Kelly, Judy Garland, some of these wonderful actors and actresses, who, by the way, were liberals, right? They were not communists, right? They were progressives. But he was telling them, I'm not a communist. These right-wing fanatics in Washington, I'm not that. I'm like you. So he got up there and he testified before Congress, and they said, Mr. Lawson, here on this billboard, here on this poster board, here's your Communist Party USA number. Here's all the checks you wrote out to Communist Party USA. Here's your dues. Here's your application. And John Howard Lawson, Patrick, you know what he did? He kind of stirred in his seat and he yelled, Nazis, right? This is like the Reichstag fire in Berlin. He just started calling them names, right? He just started calling, and these guys, all that they had done was expose them as being a communist. So what did he do? He called them all these names. Probably would have called him a homophobe if that name had existed back then, right? So you see this among the kind of extreme left for quite some time. I'll go back a little further. Karl Marx. I spend a lot of time on this in The Devil and Karl Marx. Marx and these Marxists like to say that business people are capitalists who are obsessed with money, right? No, guys like Marx and Marxists and communists, they're the ones who are obsessed with money. That's all that these guys think about. You read some of Marx's anti-Semitic statements, they are chilling, right? He says things like, what is the worldly god of the Jew? Money. What does the Jew worship? Haggling. And I read that and I think to myself, no, Karl, you're the one that worships money, right? You're the one that's obsessed with money. You're so obsessed with money that you can't even think enough about your own money. You think about everybody else's money, right? You want a central government to come in and forcibly take it and redistribute it. So it's funny, oftentimes when they're yelling at you, hater, screaming at them, and you're thinking, I'm not hating at all. I've got a smile on my face while you're talking to me. They're projecting onto you what they're really feeling. And they do that a lot with money and attacking people with property and attacking capitalists. A lot of this is a sort of self-projection. It's almost psychological by some of these individuals.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.